Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahasham Rakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, the great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video. And in this video, I'll be profiling about a minute or so of this clip from Plain Finance Reborn's YouTube channel titled Energy Crisis plus Wars plus Food Shortages equals superinflation. Forget regular inflation, forget hyperinflation. We're talking about superinflation now. William Middlecoop warning on U.S. economy. And this video came up in my recommends, so I checked it out. And hey, a lot of the things this guy says in the first minute or so, we can line it up with biblical prophecy because, hyperinflation, superinflation is coming, economic downturns, people losing their jobs, food shortages, famines. Hey, this is all biblical prophecy, and these are all the judgments of Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called God, and his son, so-called Jesus, are bringing to this planet for all the wickedness you people have been committing, especially in the United States of America, which is biblically known as Babylon the Great. And Apostle Tahar has deemed 2024 to be the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble. And Jacob's trouble in the scriptures is when all hell and judgment is going to break loose. And from the start of 2024 until now, something's happened damn near every day. Earthquakes, that situation in Miami, major airstrikes from Russia and Ukraine, that situation with the Houthis, Hezbollah, Iran, the U.S., Israel, that whole Middle Eastern situation, etc., etc. And these events are only going to increase, as we get closer and closer, to the second coming of Yahawashi. But before I play this clip, this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this video, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
We've never had a situation where these spikes in energy prices didn't lead to recession. So recession is guaranteed now. And that's why central bankers, they can't raise rates. And they were cornered before the Ukraine war, and they're cornered even more now. Yeah, we talked about superinflation. It's not hyperinflation. We won't get hyperinflation. We'll get superinflation. So let's say 10% inflation yearly. Well, US is almost there. We had PPI numbers from Italy, 40% PPI, 40. I'm worried about this superinflation, but I'm worried what will happen with the lower and middle class people, especially in poor countries. They will have a food crisis. You can expect a food crisis now. Egypt just said today that they don't allow export of food anymore. Russia said the same, Ukraine. So everybody's starting to hoard food.
And like I said, food shortages, famines of biblical proportions are part of biblical prophecy, and it's the judgments of Yahweh Bahashem Yahawashi for the wickedness you people have been committing. First, let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 16. I'm going to read verses 17 to 22. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? Hey, the days and times we're living in right now, the last days, really the last seconds of the last days, in the times of Jacob's trouble, the hopeful year, of Jacob's trouble. Verse 18, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? And for one, you better hope that you're an Israelite or a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, as well as the Israelite foreigners who look like these heathen nations. Hey, but on top of that, being of the elect of the nation of Israel, who are going to have the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the scriptures from Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai to navigate these times of Jacob's trouble. And Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai is going to have that protective hedge over them, to be safe from these calamities. Behold, famine for the second time, and tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment, correction, judgment, again, for all the iniquity you people have been committing, chiefly the wicked of our people, as well as the biblical Edomites, or these so-called white people who are currently in control right now, who have done everything completely contrary to the laws, statutes, and commandments in the scriptures, and have pretty much turned this planet into a trap house. 20. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor always be mindful of the scourges. Here we have inflation and prices rising, people having to work 2, 3, whatever jobs just to keep their head above the water, companies laying off people, companies going into bankruptcy, looming food shortages, talks of World War III and nuclear destruction. The list goes on and on. But hey, these people out here, especially in America, aren't taking heed to it. They think they have that normalcy bias, normalcy Norman, like the Canadian prepper likes to say, where they see these things happen and they just think that everything's going to work itself out and go back to business as usual. But that is not the case. These are not the times we're living in. We're living in the times of the end of this current age of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, before the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven. And the kingdom of heaven is going to come in through great violence, death, destruction, misery, and horror. Verse 21, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And while prices are going up, you can still go out and buy food to eat. Like in America, people aren't on the verge of starvation like they are in a lot of other places on the planet. So what? A lot of people, again, are suffering from that normalcy bias. They think that, hey, it's a little tough right now, but, Biden or whoever gets voted into office next year, which with the way things are looking, we might not even have an election this year, is going to fix the problem. But even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine for the third time, and great confusion, the judgments, the calamities that Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai is bringing to this planet. 22, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Hey, so if you're not of that elect number with that dawah or spiritual mark of exemption on you, hey, if you escape the famines, some other calamity is going to take you out. Getting killed in these racial skirmishes, which are going to take place, getting killed during a state of civil unrest, which we can see with each day in the U.S. We're getting closer and closer to civil war breaking out. Hence that movie coming out in April, Civil War. What? You get killed by one of these foreign troops during a state of martial law. You get drafted and sent over, to the Middle East to die in World War III. Or ultimately you get burned up by those nuclear missiles, which are going to be shot to the ends of the earth during World War III. Very terrible times are coming. And when we see information like what we're watching in this clip come out, we know that these days are approaching that much more quickly. But I'm going to back it up a little bit just so we can hear what William Middlecoop is saying about, superinflation leading to, food shortages, energy crises, et cetera, et cetera.
This superinflation, but I'm worried what will happen with the lower and middle class people, especially in poor countries. They will have
and already in a lot of these so-called third world countries, which the U.S., you might as well say, is a third world country at this point. I think his name is David or William Beasley of the UN World Food Group over the last couple of years has been sounding the alarm, saying, people in a lot of those countries are already facing, famines of biblical proportions and on the verge of mass starvation. A lot of them are starving and dying off, and it will reach the shores of the United States of America. What have we had over here in the U.S.? Adverse weather events, whether from the Most High or man-made, wink, wink, which is ultimately from Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai taking place, which has been ruining a lot of farmers' croplands. So what? They've been yielding less and less crops. And what? Supply chain disruptions, which have been taking place, which the elites are orchestrating because the elites also want to bring about, food shortages and chaos out here to get the people desperate to bring that order out of chaos. Hey, you're tired of starving to death or seeing your loved ones starve? Hey, come here to one of our FEMA centers and get this implantable C-hip in you, the MOTB in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, in their hands or in their foreheads to get you completely locked into this digital panopticon, this digital prison, this cashless digital society they want to bring about.
Food crisis. You can expect a food crisis now. Egypt just said.
And you can expect a food crisis, which, first and foremost, we know through the scriptures, famines, plagues, war, many of them shall perish of famine.
Today, that they don't allow export of food anymore. Russia said the same, Ukraine, so everybody started to hoard food.
And with, adverse weather events, destroying, farmers' croplands, supply chain disruptions, and different countries starting to stop exporting food and hoarding food, what's that going to lead to? Emptier and emptier store shelves out here, which is exactly what it talks about in 2nd Esdras chapter 6, verse 22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. And when a farmer plants crops, what does he do? He sows that seed into the field. So the sown places appear unsown. Adverse weather events or whatever, holding back farmers' abilities to plant and harvest a sufficient amount of crops. And then on top of that, you have what? Especially here in the U.S., the government, paying off these farmers to destroy, crops and kill off animals. Everything being orchestrated to bring that chaos, then that order, that new world, ORDER. The full storehouses, your Walmarts, Rouses, Krogers, Publix, Aldi's, farmers markets, the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. Empty store shelves and what? Desperation growing out here. So a combination of empty store shelves, inflationary prices to where people can't even afford what's left into the stores. And what's that going to breed? People getting it how they live out here. It's going to go from ransacking what's left at these stores, which, in some places in the country, they're already putting, little metal cages with sensors on them on steaks and other high quality meats because people are stealing them in large numbers. It's going to go from ransacking these stores to people turning against each other, going into these neighborhoods, kicking in doors and taking what they want. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 15, verse 19. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword. And especially in the United States of America, the modern day sword is the gun. But people are going to be using whatever they get their hands on that day. Literal swords, knives, machetes, bats wrapped in barbed wire, brass knuckles, chains, Molotov cocktails. Hey, whatever your heart's desire is. But a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, whether it be the random neighbor across the street or what, somebody's so-called best friend. In that second Esdras chapter 6, when you go down to verse 24, which, shit, let's read it. Second Esdras 6 and 24. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. It's going to be a free-for-all in that day. Doesn't matter if y'all used to barbecue together, pop fireworks on the 4th of July, or go to each other's kids' sports games. If you're in between them feeding themselves or their loved ones, it's going to be hell to tell the captain. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, famines, food shortages, the full storehouses suddenly being found empty, and for great tribulation, all the other calamities of Jacob's trouble taking place. The plagues, the sword, the wars, etc., etc. But like I said, when we were going back into that second Esdras 16, where the prophet Esdras said, woe is me, who will deliver me in those times? Hey, you have to be an Israelite, but first and foremost, an Israelite of that elect number, with that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding in you to, guide yourself through these times of Jacob's trouble and have that protective hedge of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai over you, which is, what you should be doing right now during this grace period we have before all hell breaks loose, drinking from these rivers of living waters until that spigot is turned off in the famine of the word, where you will no longer be able to find this word on the highways and byways or on the internet or the prophets takes place, as it says in Amos chapter 8, and you're going to have to, get it how you live in that time. But real quick, this is Isaiah chapter 33, verse 6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and the strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh is his treasure. And, to the sincere Akim and Akwat out there, even though, we're still in this flesh, and when we, read of these things coming, see it in the news or on videos like the one I'm profiling, of course, in the flesh, you do get nervous because we're the hopeful elect right now. We won't know if we're of that elect number, until we beamed up on those chariots. But we have an answer to all these things. The scriptures say famine is coming. Esau, that devil, is coming down in great wrath, as it says in Revelation 12, verse 12. But what does it also say? Hey, you rely on Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, what? Gaining up that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And it's going to be the stability of these times of Jacob's trouble we're going to come into. And while a lot of these people are going to perish of hunger, perish of famine, and if they escape the famine, the sword, as it says in 2 Esdras chapter 16, what does the scriptures say is going to happen, to the servants of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, spending this grace period right now, doing whatever they can to come back to their power and, take themselves out of the ways of this world. This is Isaiah chapter 65, verses 13 to 14. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, my servants doing my will shall eat, but ye shall be hungry. First and foremost, the wicked of our people that don't want to take heed to this word and think everything's going to go back to normal. Hey, and also you heathens out here who have no hope at all. Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is not going to be fighting for you at all, but fighting against you. But ye shall be hungry. Behold, my servants shall drink, but ye shall be thirsty. Behold, my servants shall rejoice, but ye shall be ashamed. Behold, my servants shall sing for joy of heart, but ye shall cry for sorrow of heart, and shall howl for vexation of spirit, howling and in terror for all the great tribulations, the judgments, the scourges that Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is covering you in for the iniquity you've been committing. But let's get back to this clip.
This is getting very, very scary. And it all developed within the last 2 weeks. So you have this strange situation that what's good for yourself to protect you and your family. So, for example, we didn't talk gold yet, but if you start to move out of the financial system and you flee towards hard assets, which we see happening a lot. You know, we talked with high net worth investors all day, and people are really getting stressed now.
Hey, he just said we talked to a lot of high stakes investors and people are getting stressed because they see that this whole global financial system is buckling under its weight and it's about to fall down. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 12. I'm going to read verses 3 to 4. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and when you go into that word economy, you know, in its etymology, it means, you know, keeping of the house. So this is talking about your major economists like on Wall Street, these high stakes investors, but ultimately, you know, the elites such as your Rothschilds and Rockefellers that pull the strings of this system behind the scenes, those elite bankers. And the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few. And what does Jake like to say? You know, Jake being short for Jacob, or, you know, the 12 tribes of Israel. I'm on my grind, which means what? You're getting that money, getting that bag. And the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. And why would the grinders be few? Because more and more businesses are shutting down and laying off people. And when people look out of the windows, so to speak, to find new work, hey, they're darkened. Not too many jobs left out there. And a lot of the jobs that are left are what? Becoming automated. AI taking over them. Verse 4, and the doors shall be shut in the streets of these different businesses when the sound of the grinding or working is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. And again, like it says in that title, energy crisis plus wars plus food shortages equals superinflation. Hey, these prices, hey, they're going up day by day, and eventually it's going to get to the point to where they're just going to shoot up and become out of control. And hey, that's going to lead to these people taking matters into their own hands when they can't afford, you know, what's left in these stores out here. They can't afford their rent anymore, you know, to get gasoline, you name it. But hey, inflation, hyperinflation, superinflation is in the scriptures as well. This is Revelation chapter 6. I'm going to start at verse 5. And these couple of verses are dealing with the so-called 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, which are just different events and situations that would be taking place to let you know that we're living in the last days, the great times of judgment, Jacob's trouble to come. And when he had opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Verse 6, and I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see, thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And when we go into that word penny in the Strongs, it's G1220, denarion. And in the outline of biblical usage, it reads denarius, containing 10, a Roman silver coin in New Testament times. It took its name from it being equal to 10 asses, which, you know, were, I think it was a bronze, a later copper coin back during that Roman Republic, Roman Empire era, which, as it said, 10 of them equaled 1 denarion. A number after 217 BC increased to 16, about 3.898 grams or 0.1375 ounces. It was the principal silver coin of the Roman Empire. From the parable of the laborers in the vineyard, it would seem that a denarius was then the ordinary pay for a day's wages, because in the law and the scriptures and just in the ancient world, a man was paid the very same day he worked. It isn't like this wicked system we live in now where you're paid every 2 weeks. So let's, translate this to modern times. Let's say after 2 weeks, you make around $800. What? A measure of wheat for a penny, a measure of barley for a penny, your food, your groceries, a hamburger from, God forbid you're eating there, one of these fast food places. What? Takes damn near your entire paycheck just to get it. So that would mean what? You have no money left over to pay for your other amenities, which you can look it up. A lot of people are having to really decide what bills to pay and what bills not to pay. I either pay for my rent and food, but not my car note. I either pay for my car note and, gas, but not for, the cable bill. Hey, people are really getting squeezed tight out here. And that squeeze is only going to continue to intensify. And then this last little section of this video I'm going to let play, William Middlecoop is going to talk about how a lot of people are turning to hard assets, gold and silver, to try to hedge themselves against these currency crises that are coming. And, there's nothing wrong with having a little gold or silver, put to the side, because, a lot of brothers and myself, see that with, this inflation and currency crises coming and, a collapse of a lot of things, there may very well be a little window where, it'd be some kind of, barter system, or maybe even some places or will accept gold and silver for transactions. But as the situation continues to get worse and worse, gold and silver is not going to cut it. Let's wind it back a little bit.
System, and you flee towards hard assets, which we see happening a lot. We talked with high net worth investors all day, and people are really getting stressed now.
The keepers of the house shall mourn.
And so when you start hoarding gold or silver or whatever kind of hard assets, that's good for you and your family, but it's bad for the system.
Hey, and ultimately, it's not going to do any good for you as well, because if you don't have that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, to guide you through these terrible times of Jacob's trouble, or that protective hedge of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai over you, hey, that gold and silver isn't going to fill your belly. That's it with that clip. But I'm going to close it out in Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 19. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of Yahweh. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, your bellies. You can't eat gold and silver. And when things get really dire out here, you think somebody's going to, take gold and silver, for a loaf of bread? No, they're going to want, an equal exchange of food and, something else entirely, because it is the stumbling block of their iniquity. So again, doesn't matter, how prepped up, how many, martial arts skills or ammunition you got stored up. If Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai is not dealing with you, and you don't have that knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, hey, you're going to cast your gold and silver into the streets. And what? My servants shall eat, but ye shall hunger. My servants shall drink, but ye shall thirst. My servants shall, rejoice, but ye shall lament and wail, for vexation, for horror out here. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope your sincere Akiyame and Akwath were edified. Hey, again, Apostle Tahar is deemed 2024 to be the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble. And it literally started off with a bang, and it keeps on moving along with some new, calamity and judgment going out day by day. So we know that these gates of mercy, this grace period we're in, to get ourselves right with Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, is quickly closing. So continue to drink from the rivers of living waters, of this wisdom, so there'll be the stability in these times to come. So as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.